Welcome back to Business in Blue. I'm your host, Leah Harper, and today in the studio, we are diving into something truly imaginative. Baron von Opperbean and the River of Time, an immersive storytelling experience coming soon to Mud Island. Today here in the studio, I have joining me Marvin Stockwell and G. Von Knight, the two creative forces helping bring this project to life. Welcome to the studio, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right, how we feeling? Excited to be
Feeling
here?
great. Yeah. It's a gorgeous day.
I know, right?
Yep.
Okay, so
Yep.
we're going to get started with an icebreaker.
Okay.
If you could travel to any moment in time, past or future, where would you go and why?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We should have gotten that one in advance.
Yeah, no. Like all of a sudden, I'm cataloging all the bands that I'd really like to have seen,
Right.
and in their prime. But yeah, some early '80s punk rock band.
So we got a broad amount of time that we go back to. Okay.
Yeah.
That is hard to pick. I might say witnessing some of the historic launches during the Apollo era.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we
Mm.
really exceeded what we thought humanity could do in that sense. And I had the chance to work with those artifacts for a number of years. And, you know, the idea of them sitting there as a museum artifact is one thing, but the idea of them actually leaving the Earth and going into space and coming back is
Yeah.
still hard to imagine, even though you're standing there right next to them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
I honestly, mine is kind of silly. I would go back to like the early 2010s and go see Justin Bieber live in concert. I would go see Justin Bieber live in concert, honestly, but that's just me though.
Yeah.
Before we get started,
Yeah.
let's dive into your positions and
Mhm.
what exactly you're going to do with Bevo.
So I'm one of the co-founders of
Mhm.
Baron von Opperbean and the River of Time, or Bevo for short.
Yeah.
And we are building an immersive experience inside the old Mississippi River Museum at Mud Island in downtown Memphis. It's a 33,000 square foot space. And we are with two, not one, but two giant boat replicas inside them that we're going to
Whoa.
redevelop as part of the redevelopment of the experience. So we're currently building set to open an 8,000 square foot version of the experience
Mhm.
early next year. And it will be a mix of physical set pieces, digital set pieces, a choose your own adventure experience, if you will, or
Mhm.
it'll be, I like to say it's like walking around inside an open world video game, except in a real space.
Mhm.
But extended by the use of projection mapping and screens, et cetera, to really extend the universe even beyond that 33,000 square feet. But it will be not a story that you passively consume, but a story that you live. You'll have agency within that story. We'll have actors in costume and in character that can impart clues and story parts and
Yeah.
help you on your journey through the multiverse. We'll also have an AI character, actually more than one, that you'll
Whoa.
also be able to speak to. The AI will be trained on the lore. There'll be
Mhm.
fully holographic 3D holograms that you can talk to, who will be your kind of non-player character, if you will.
Yeah, love that. And G, what is your position?
I'm the new CEO of Bevo, and I was recently invited to captain this band of pirates
Mhm.
from here through the opening of their launch. And it's equally for me, if you're in my role, it's equally important that we build an entertainment brand here
Mhm.
that can be transformative for people, because we all know that piece of entertainment that changed us forever. It could be Justin Bieber. It could be
Right.
it could be a movie. It could be a theme park. And so bringing that industry here to join Graceland and the Pyramid and some of the other attractions that are here is part of it.
Yeah.
The other part of it, at the same time, which I think is equally important, is building one of the best companies in Memphis to work for. Because it's not enough to just have a beautiful experience for other people to
Mhm.
enjoy. It's also important that we be the best, ethical, wonderful place for Memphians to come and work and to have as part of their community here.
Yeah, I love that. So I want to tap into the thought process behind
Mhm.
Bevo. Where did the inspiration come to turn Mud Island into an immersive storytelling experience?
Yeah, so it started with our chief creative officer, our chief visionary officer, Christopher Reyes,
Mhm.
who opened Bevo's Quadrant 360 in the year 2020. sold 4,000 tickets in 2 days. People traveled from 8 states. So what that showed us was that there was a desire for this. It was in off-the-wall arts in the kind of midtown, between midtown and downtown area.
Mm-hmm.
And it really just showed us that there was this desire. So we've come now to really fully understand that Memphis is really in kind of a large-scale entertainment desert. You have to drive 5 hours north to get to the City Museum in St. Louis,
That's true.
or down to Florida to go to Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
And while we all have an imagination when we're kids and we can kind of be transported to another world just with imaginative play around the house, you know, there's a reason why there's an industry around these things. It's that people they spend their vacations going to Disney World, and they have these incredible trips where they have bonding experiences as a family. They're transported to the world of Harry Potter or
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars or what have you. And we just think, and Memphians have told us that Memphis needs more family-friendly entertainment.
Right.
And other studies have shown us that people want they want experiences where they can be together.
Mm-hmm.
So we just feel like not only is there an opportunity in terms of a market niche, but we're all about bringing people together and
Mm-hmm.
groupings of friends to do things in an actual space together and problem solve together. I think it's a
Yeah. And I feel like
missing
our
asset.
city, we have a very big family aspect about us. And I love that you all are focusing on that with
Mhm.
Bevo. And I wanted to know, like, how would you describe Bevo's interactive exhibits to someone who's never experienced anything like it? Like someone who's never had a chance to go to the St. Louis Museum, or I know, gee, you used to work with Meow Wolf as well. So, like, how would you explain an interactive exhibit to someone who's never experienced it before?
There's a range in the immersive industry. And so
Yeah.
immersive is a word that's used. It's used all over the place, and it's used in everyone has a slightly different definition for it. So if you think about it, you know, a museum and a gallery is immersive if that is actually what you're going to do and you get lost in the artwork. Meow Wolf is on that spectrum in terms of an interactive gallery. It was the
Right.
art first, and it was a gallery, and it was a gallery that wasn't fixed walls and boxed rooms where you could actually interact with the art. Then you have themed entertainment going all the way down to amusement like putt-putt golf and escape rooms. And then you have theme parks, which are over here. They're creating a fixed experience. You know, the rides are the rides for
Yeah.
everybody. They're very similar. They do have some intellectual property, but it's a little bit more about the physical interaction with the rides versus an actual story and creative universe. And then you have we're somewhere in between. So we like to say that we're going to be an immersive playground,
Right.
but it's set within a creative universe. So for those people who've gone to the City Museum, it's a playground,
Right.
and you bring your own imagination and you just play, and you play
Yeah.
in the playground. You can come up with your own stories.
Mhm.
If you go to, any of like the Disney properties, it's their story and you're a passenger on there. So it still is a version of passive consumption.
Mhm.
Here, you're going to have a playground. You're engaging your senses, your body, your hands, your arms, and there's a story element.
Mhm.
And on top of that, you get to be a character in this universe. So every single time you come, it's going to be a little bit different for you, depending on what
Mhm.
you're choosing to explore and how you want to interact and what you bring to the multiverse yourself versus just the story that's being fed to you.
That is actually so
Yeah.
exciting. I never really
It's
thought of
fun.
it like that. That is very exciting. So I want to know, I know that Bevo is very big on storytelling, as we just discussed, but how do you balance the creative vision with business realities with a project this big?
Oh, that's a great
That's a
question.
great
That's
question.
one
Yeah.
for you.
So at the end of the day, the business model is the business model. And there's what is public consuming, but there's still the business model. And we're in the business of location-based entertainment. So there are specific revenue streams that are going to actually build this business and keep it profitable and keep it sustainable so that we can hire local Memphians, we can invest in other small businesses that are supporting us. And that is ticket sales that come from locals and visitors from out of town. That is merchandise, and that is food and beverage,
Mhm.
and then events. So everything is keyed off of those four pillars, and then our job is to make sure that we have enough capital within the company that we can give Christopher and Catherine as much runway as possible to not stifle their creativity.
Mhm.
So as much as possible, they get to play and explore the space. They get to change the space if it feels like the story's going in a different direction. They get to explore what's next and find new and other artists and collaborators that then inspire them that we can bring into the space. So my job is to make sure that they have enough runway, which is
Yeah.
absolutely a financial decision.
Mhm.
His job is to make sure we have enough people coming through the door, and their
Yeah.
job is to basically sit in the space and deliver the creativity that we need.
Yeah, and I know you were talking about like different things that will need to take place for this to be able to be a success. How does it feel to know that you're about to open up plenty of job opportunities for Memphians here in the city?
That's my favorite thing at the end
Yeah.
of the day. The last time I sat in this seat, probably my proudest moment was when we crossed 10 full-time employees and 8 of
Wow.
which had families. And
Mhm.
so at the end of the day, I knew that it wasn't just me, it was those 10 employees plus the families that they supported because we were their primary job. Bringing that and the economic capital, because it's
Mhm.
not just jobs. So people always focus on jobs. Okay, we
Mhm.
need jobs here in Memphis. It's jobs and it's the economies around it, because you put a large scale entertainment property, whether it's a theater or the FedEx Forum or anything like that that has kind of large scale creative industry around it, you're going to need restaurants around it support it. You're going to need lodging around it support it. You're going to need transportation, Uber and Lyft drivers. You're going to need parking at its base. You're going to add tours
Yeah.
to that element. So
Yeah.
it is both the jobs for the individuals, as well as we're going to need fabricators in Memphis that are dedicated to helping build with this. We're going to need digital
Mhm.
artists. So we
Mhm.
become the place, not just for Memphians, we become the place that people also want to move to
Yeah.
bring their talents here.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's not just the jobs themselves. It's what you was saying. It's the kind of ancillary spill out effect.
Mhm.
Our friends at the Greater Memphis Chamber did an economic impact study and showed a $66.2 million
Wow.
economic impact of Bevo. I forget what the figure is for year over year, but just imagine people are going to go do this and they're going to want to go have dinner or they're going to want to have drinks.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, we're confident that our project can be, can lead to the comeback of Mud Island more fully. It's a
Yeah.
52-acre park. It's an incredible space. Other cities are having immersive districts. So I don't know that whether it's an immersive district or whether it's just a wider entertainment
Mhm.
district. There's some assets on the island that we think could be incredible. And as we engage with people down on the island, which that was the biggest kind of like aha thing for me, is just how much traffic Mud Island still gets,
Mhm.
because it's still a beautiful park. So if I say nothing today, it's like
Yeah, it's a
get out and
Memphis
see Mud
Memphis
Island.
staple.
It's a beautiful park, but usually people will look around and they'll say, I feel like this should be so much more. And that is ultimately what we're working on, our 33,000 square foot part of. And we're excited. We're confident that our part can be successful, even when it's just us and the folks at Mahogany. I always want to give Mahogany a shout out because
Mhm.
there's a restaurant open on Mud Island, a good
Yeah.
one at that. But I think if you put some other assets around us that are well thought through in a cohesive package, I think that could be a great destination place for families and groups of friends to spend a half day, or
Yeah,
more.
I feel like Mud Island is already such a loved space, and I feel like Bevo is just
Yeah.
gonna open up an opportunity for even new memories, new experiences, and it can be loved in our city as well. And with us discussing job opportunities within the city that Bevo is gonna bring, what all are you looking for specifically within your team?
Yeah, so it's going to change dramatically from pre-production into the when we're actually open and live. So the things that people typically experience, like guest services and security and elements, that will be part of it.
Yeah.
But what's most exciting is for the creative community. So think of it in two different buckets. You've got physical production and you've got digital production, actually, and you have acting and performative. So
Yeah.
physical production, we're talking builders and fabricators. I could actually use those now. So if you know any set builders, theater set concept builders that are in between projects, I need those people and their skills right now because they work with what they have. They don't
Right.
have, unlimited resources to create the world. That's on the piece that's helping us build that side. On the digital, we're going to have system engineers, game engineers, Unity developers, Unreal developers, as well as just the graphic design and 3D animation talents that will power all of the screens that we have. And then on the acting side, we're talking both talent that we need on the voice side, talent that we need on the physical for video pieces that we're doing,
Right.
as well as everybody on the client service side needs to either be an actor themselves or be able to embrace the training of that, because the experience as soon as you step in universe is in universe, period. You don't have anybody that's saying that is out of universe, that's talking about the, Ubers and Lyfts, because that is an out of universe experience for us.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's one of the reasons that we use technology. We're actually a tech forward company, but we're going to, a lot of people say, oh, so I'll get the information on my phone. Absolutely not. Or there'll be no need for headsets or anything like that. Because if you're looking at your phone, you can get that text about Johnny's soccer practice, and that's going to take you out of the immersion.
Yeah.
G earlier was talking about theme parks. Well, and it might be themed and you might be in the Harry Potter world, but the minute you kind of like come out of the thing and you're at the getting the lemonade, you're kind of back in the real world. We want people to enter Baron von Opperbean in the River of Time and be fully immersed for the totality of, I'm sure these people are not going to suspend disbelief. They will remember, but we want to the degree possible. We want people to really feel that they are drawn into this world, that they are actors in this world, and that they have agency in that world.
Yeah. What keeps coming to my mind is A Whole New World from Aladdin. It's literally like what you guys are doing, and I love it, and I'm so excited for the project.
Yeah, we are too.
Marvin, with you being co-founder, I know you're a Memphis native, and you're even a Memphis alumni. So
I am.
I want to know, how do you feel Memphians are grasping this concept, and how are they responding to this new attraction coming to the city?
I think there's genuine excitement about the idea itself, but especially early on where people were still kind of like gathering facts about Bevo. Some of the initial wind in our sails was just enthusiasm for Mud Island. Some of our early investors told us, they said, I am just excited that somebody's doing something at Mud Island. I want to learn more about your business idea. Now, I would say that's balanced out over time. I think there's genuine excitement about an immersive experience coming to Mud Island. But the fact that it's on Mud Island and the fact that it is this kind of diamond in the rough, I would argue, crown jewel of Memphis that just needs some polishing.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of excitement about Mud Island's comeback and our potential to be part of that.
Yeah. So I think that kind of leads into my next thought. Like, if we take away, if we focus in on Bevo, Bevo could have been placed anywhere. It could have been placed in Atlanta, could have been placed in Nashville, could have been placed in Knoxville. Why did you decide here in Memphis? This is where we want to plant.
Well, first and foremost, because we are Memphians. And so like we're homers, right?
Yeah.
Christopher had his pop-up in Memphis. He's not a Memphis native, but he's lived in Memphis for a good long time.
And it goes back much farther than that. And to your question earlier about why Mud Island is also why Memphis. So Christopher Reyes was the visionary behind Live for Memphis for over a decade. Like he had the hub of creative talent, and his goal was to give a place for creative talent to talk about all of the amazing things that they were doing that then could also be broadcast to the world, live streaming to the world at a time when live streaming pre-YouTube, you know, in this sense. And so his core that this is for Memphis. This is built out of the people who already have these imaginations and are creating things today, even if the world doesn't know about them. It's a big core value of the company because the company started with him.
Just to tag on, I remember Christopher saying something to the effect of, this is more than just a group of people that had some good ideas and brought this forward. this should be the type of thing where all of Memphis, the creative community, says, we did this.
Yeah.
That's the feeling we want to have at the end. We want to be collaborative, not only in the build out, but in the life of the organization and the life of the place. You know, there's an art gallery we have in our river room. We want to have a series of rotating artists through there.
Yeah.
The river room is a great room to have a party in. You know, we want people to use it, right? We want people to gather there. So Christopher from the jump has always been collaborative, and he Live from Memphis essentially held up a mirror to creative Memphis so that we could all see, and I'm a band guy too, so I was part of that. The creative community saw itself and said, wow, we're really awesome. Man, we can do all these things, right? And so that same ethos is alive and well at Bevo, and it does stem right back to the kind of founding visionary, for sure.
Yeah.
But let's also talk economic development for a second, because Memphis has a chip on its shoulder. And I say that with all love and respect. Having been here 5 years, I have not been here decades. And I moved here from Santa Fe, New Mexico. So Santa Fe, New Mexico, 75,000 people in that metropolitan area. It is not a place that any logical investor would have invested in family-friendly entertainment. The average tourist was coming for the wineries and the galleries. The average person that was moving to Santa Fe at the time when I lived there, 65 years old. It's not a place where you put anything in the family front entertainment or you choose to invest. So why was Santa Fe, New Mexico this perfect storm? And when I went to visit these guys the first time, the parallels of how it could be a perfect storm, you know, I was jumping out of my skin, because Santa Fe is about 45 minutes north from Albuquerque. But other than that, Denver is the closest thing. It's 5 to 6 hours to the north. El Paso is the closest thing to the south. It's about 8 hours away. Amarillo is to the east. The Grand Canyon is to the west. There's nothing between the Grand Canyon and Santa Fe. And you put something for the families that are there. Now, Memphis has arguably more in its metropolitan population than Albuquerque does in terms of the number of people that live there and the population. So you put something that the local population didn't have. You know, they weren't, it was an underserved met need because there are families growing up there. And just because tourism didn't support an idea like this, the families did. And then it was such a moment in a creative space, and it was so different that within a year, it completely upended the entire tourism industry for the state of New Mexico. For decades, the number one tourist attraction in the state of New Mexico was Carlsbad Caverns. And then second to that, as far as one-off events, the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta, which is an international event. Within a year, Meow Wolf became the number one tourist destination in the entire state, changing that landscape for it because there was nothing in the area. It was incredibly unique. Then, for the first time, you had 6-year-olds that were saying, Mom, I want to go to Santa Fe for spring break. And you had parents across the country that were like, what? Why do you want to go to Santa Fe for spring break? And all of these families poured into the state. So Memphis, the parallels, which people would never say, like, what are the parallels between New Mexico and Memphis? The parallels are so striking because the closest thing, we've got Nashville, we've got St. Louis, we've got Little Rock, we have Jackson in Mississippi. There's this huge area of space where people can do a half day, that they don't have anything that's accessible. And we are already a town that is based on the oldest creative industries with entertainment and music across the board. So it is just Memphis's next chapter in what is going to be, I say this, a very incredible economic development story over the next 10 years.
Yeah, I 100% seen that playing out. Like the connection that you did between Santa Fe and Memphis, I wouldn't have thought that either. But that does make a lot of sense. You're from New Mexico?
I am not. Actually, I grew up in California. I was actually born in Korea and I was adopted at a young age, but I grew up in California, and then I moved from California to DC to Houston, and then I ended up in New Mexico. Met my husband in Houston, and we were there for 17 years. So it's the longest place I've ever lived in my entire life. So it's definitely like near and dear.
Yeah, I feel like Memphis is gonna top that though. I feel like
we're here.
I feel like you're here to stay.
We're working on it.
And we chose Memphis. I know a lot of people, get a job and they come to Memphis, or their spouse gets a job and comes to Memphis. We actually chose to move to Memphis, which also surprisingly baffles people. The number one question I've gotten the last 5 years is, why did you move to Memphis?
You
And
want to tell that beautiful backstory?
and it's on various degrees of, why did you move to Memphis, to why did you move to Memphis? And I'm like, whoa.
Let's refocus. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I had this epic road trip with my family in 2018. I was doing work in economic development. I was doing work in Denver, and I had gone to Cleveland and St. Louis. And since we were going to be in this area, I said, why don't we actually make it a road trip instead of lots of planes? And we took off and we spent a couple of days in Chicago on vacation. We spent some time in St. Louis, and we spent some time in Memphis. My husband is a blues rock guy. That's like the music that flows through his soul. He's a Texan, but this is the music that flows through his soul. So, you know, New Mexico is not quite that scene. You can get music anywhere, but it's not seeping out of the ground.
It's not Memphis music.
Right?
It's not Memphis blues. I got it.
So I had been here in 2002 when I traveled across the country, but he had never been to this area. So we, you know, his brain exploded in Chicago because we went to Buddy Guy's restaurant, you know, and different places there. His brain exploded in St. Louis because we went to Chuck Berry's. We were that weird family that went and took photos with a guitar at Chuck Berry's old house, which is not a tourist destination. It's just a house in a neighborhood, but this is what he wanted to do. Then we came to Memphis, and we spent arguably probably 3 or 4 days here in Memphis. The armpit of the summer, it was July. It was so gross outside.
Sure.
It's a gruesome time.
Here's what happened to us. We checked into like a Spring Hill Suites downtown. I picked a place, you know, that seemed central and local. And that weekend, there were like 4 or 5 high schools that were having their like 50th, 40th, 45th, 50th high school reunion across multiple years. So it was multiple high schools across multiple years. So we're going to check into this hotel, and it is just full of 65-year-old people that are so excited to be back in Memphis. They don't know how to use a digital kiosk. All of the luggage racks are gone. They're trying to get all their stuff in.
But they're happy to be here.
They are so excited to be here. They're so excited to see people that they haven't seen in years. They're all getting dressed up. They ended up having a huge party in the North Bluff Park right across from the hotel. So that was the backdrop for us being in Memphis. It wasn't probably the typical vacation for it. And then they were just bustling around this hotel for days with us. And every time we saw them, because we were the only ones that were not in
part
this
of the
hotel.
reunion.
And I had 3 tiny children, so they'd see the kids coming. And we spent a couple of days. We went down into Mississippi along the Blues Trail. I got to watch my husband connect with music in a way that was different than I'm watching it on TV and playing. I left with this feeling of like there's something missing for him. We need to move to a music city. We need to move to a music city where he can be in this space. We get home to New Mexico after like 39 days on the road, and he says to me, "You know what city I kind of miss that I kind of want to go back to?"
I think I know that city.
And I looked at him. I said, "It's Memphis, right?" And he goes like, "It's Memphis."
Yeah.
And I said, I know, I feel it too. And Christopher actually just last week asked me, what was it about the city? Because I'd been in 5 other cities that summer. And I said, the city was just real. It felt like a real place to be with real people, to join a city that is on an economic development trajectory that is going to be exciting. I didn't quite realize how fearful Memphians are that that's not going to happen, but that's okay because, you know, we've got imports now to join the fight, but it's going to happen because I've seen it happen in so many other cities. And I was like, what if you could join the city before all the property developers show up and push people out? What if you could join the city before everything is ridiculously expensive, when it's still about the culture,
and
the art, the vibe, the people, the locals, the historical aspect of it? I said, that's really exciting. So we put it on a list of like possible cities that we could move to. And 2 years later, an opportunity popped up that felt like the right fit.
Yeah, that is a good backstory.
Yeah, and lucky us, because I look at this project and all along the arc of us developing this, the right resource, the right insight, the right connection, and the right person to join the team
Yeah.
seems to show up out of nowhere.
Mhm.
And I just feel like, the universe is looking out for us. And so when you look at somebody with G's background and just think, like, I've had a couple people where they get halfway through the story of understanding how we came to work with you, and they think you moved here for the job or
Mhm.
something, and then when they realize that you moved here 5 years ago and you've kind of already kind of steeped in the Memphis sauce, and now they're like, I can't imagine a person better suited than G to
Yeah.
help our earnest, plucky, creative, and dynamic effort really take those next steps towards becoming a reality. I feel incredibly fortunate that G just happened to, she had the part she's not telling, and I think this is kind of funny. Is that their friends were tapping her on the shoulder. Hey, if you know these people are in Memphis, or they're doing this thing.
Yeah, they're like, hey, did you know there's a Meow Wolf in Memphis? I said, there isn't a Meow Wolf in Memphis. And they're like, oh yeah, but there's like a Meow Wolf thing in Memphis. And
Mhm.
I said, no. And they're like, yeah, it's called this, like, Baron Oppenheimer. And I said, I don't think that's it. And
Oppenheimer.
I did not go to Quadrant 360 at the time. I was in Memphis without a car. So I was very much just kind of local downtown on foot kind of person. And but for 5 years, at least once a month, someone's like, hey, are you working with Bevo? Are you working with Baron von Opperbean? I said, I'm not. And they're like, hey, did you know there's a Meow Wolf in Memphis? There's
Get
not a Meow
involved,
Wolf
get
in Memphis.
involved.
And so finally I said, okay, I've got a little bit of time, a little bit of break. I'm going to meet this team. I'm going to meet them so that whether or not we work together in the future, I will have met them. I know what the project's doing. I can actually share that I've met them instead of telling everybody, no, I'm not working with them and I've never met them. The town's too small for that.
Yeah.
So I reached out and just said, hey, just thought we should connect. And if I can help in any way, I'd love to, because it's a good thing for Memphis. But I had no idea what I was going to be introduced to within the actual River
Yeah.
Museum.
But I love that you branched out and that you took that opportunity. I know that a lot of college students here, they're looking for those opportunities as well. So I do want to focus in on advice that you guys would want to give to college students, and how can we be involved? How can we learn from
Sure.
what you guys are building up here in the city?
You get a lot of hindsight when you look back of what should I have done or what do I know? And so for me, it would boil down to two different things. One, your gifts to the world are going to die in your comfort zone. They're going to atrophy. So if you are presented with an opportunity and it scares the living lights out of you, that is the one you should say yes to, because there's something about that fear that is going to take you to the next level of whatever it is. And that could be in business. It could be in creative. It could be in a personal expression. It could be in a skill. It could be in, a career change when you're in your 50s. It could be any of those things. But if you identify that you're afraid of it, it's one of the strongest signals to actually go straight head forwards to it, because something is trying to open up for you.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, I always hear people like, oh, that person is so lucky and that person is so lucky, and man, this is lucky and that is lucky. Without fail, to me, luck is just being open, aware of opportunity when it crosses your path. So if you are open and aware and you're engaged with people and community and stories and news and other human beings, you are open and aware when an opportunity flies past you and you're able to grab it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then people will say, oh, you're so lucky because that just happened. But it really wasn't that, because if you were heads down, ostrich in the sand, it would have passed by. That wasn't luck at all. That was you being open and aware to what was possibly going to come across your path.
And sometimes we need a life event that kind of takes us out of, like, I had a job layoff in 2021 that precipitated me having this opportunity. And I didn't, when you lose a job, it's a gut punch, right? But and initially I was overly focused on what I had lost, right? But now, 4.5 years after the fact, I look back at forming my own PR consultancy, taking 2 cross-country road trips with my kids and doing my podcast, and then also having the headspace and the heart space to be available to my friend Christopher Reyes when he and I were back in 21 just starting to talk about all this, or even before that, to just have that available headspace to start exploring an idea like this. And now, you know, I start to realize that these are the things that were there waiting for me to discover, and I'm glad that I lost that job, as good as it was.
Yeah. What I love about both of your pieces of advice is that it's not just for right now. You can take that advice and you can apply it in any stage of life. And I know that I will forever keep what you guys just planted inside of me. And yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I just feel like plugging at Mud Island, it makes perfect sense. Like me being the younger generation, I did have a chance to go to Mud Island growing up. And now as a teenager, I have the chance to go back again and see it in a brand new light. And I just know us college students, we can't wait to be able to visit and to see what you all have coming up next. And so with that, I do want to ask, what can we expect from Bevo until we get to the grand opening? Like, will we see any ads or like anything in that nature?
You absolutely follow us on our social channels that are out there. So
what are those? So that our listeners
we're on
can
Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook.
Yeah.
At Bevo EXP.
Bevo
at
EXP. Got it.
And I think it's all the way spelled out, Baron von Opperbean on Facebook. But if you root around for Bevo or Baron von Opperbean on any of the social channels, you'll find it. BevoEXP.com is our website, so that's a hub to launch off to all of our different channels. So definitely follow us for what we're doing. We give tours. We have events in our river room. Some are open to the public. Some are private events. So there are opportunities to come see what we're doing out in Bevo. And I'd just say, follow our social channels and watch for coverage in the press.
Yeah, I personally cannot wait. I will be one of the first guests, hopefully, to visit Bevo in the future and bring some of my friends to tag along. I really think this is going to be a new staple for the city. And I want to say thank you all for being bold enough, being brave enough to take on such a big project. And to our listeners, thank you for watching Business in Blue, all things business, all things Memphis.